This is going to be a controversial question, but we need to ask it.
I had Fanatec V3 before this, and whilst they're not as good and as customizable,
People often starting with a belt-driven or gear-driven wheel, maybe clamped to a desk.
with a Logitech, I guess it's a bit more difficult.
Torque. We see wheelbases come out 25, 39 Newton meters.
I have to be careful what I say. No.
We love
I think-
SimuCube, by the way.
Yeah. The wheelbase is less important. It's more the pedals which give you the real sensation of how the car's behaving. I was at 10K rating with those pedals.
What do you run your wheelbase torque at, and what do you recommend?
So I have
Okay, this is really exciting here because I'm sat next to not just a sim racer, but also a full-time professional Formula E driver, the youngest ever podium, what do we call it?
podium sitter.
And also pole in Monaco last year.
Yeah.
After we did a crazy visualization, which was like pretty insane.
Yeah.
So you're a sim racer, you
Yeah.
kart at the very highest level,
Yeah.
and you also race in the Formula E. So what I want to do is I want to hopefully kind of like maybe dispel some myths or just get your opinion on stuff in sim racing.
Okay.
So for example, people often starting with a belt-driven or gear-driven wheel, maybe clamped to a desk, pedals on the carpet.
Yeah.
In your experience, driving something like this, like the DS Penske,
Yeah.
can you have good experience of that, or is that kind of a bit you need to really get on?
For me, that's more sim driving. Like, even though I do a lot of sim racing and sim driving, with the setup I have, it's as close as I could get to a real car from a setup at home. With a Logitech, I guess it's a bit more difficult. I guess from that stage, you want to try to upgrade as quick as you can. I think most people do. They stay on that kind of gear for maybe a year or so, but then they try to upgrade. And the wheelbase is less important. It's more the pedals which give you the real sensation of how the car's behaving in the braking and stuff like that. So for me, if you're going to invest and upgrade your stuff, pedals is definitely the best thing to do.
That seems like maybe a first tip is like the first thing upgrade, maybe pedals.
Yeah.
I know with pedals, those Logitech or Thrustmaster or whatever, they're often potentiometer pedals.
Yeah.
You then go to load cells that measure pressure.
Yeah.
But now you can go to active pedals. I think you might be running active pedals.
Yeah.
So do you think the active pedals are kind of, they're very expensive, obviously.
Yeah.
Do you think they're, I don't want to say necessary, because it's not necessary, but like, how does it all, are load cells good enough and active pedals are like really nice?
Yeah. So I have to be careful what I say. No.
We love SimuCube, by the way.
Yeah. No, SimuCube are great. I actually use the wheelbase, the pedals, I use all of their stuff, and it's amazing. I have the active pedals. I don't use any of the features. So I don't use the ABS, I don't use the TC on the throttle or anything. Like I use it just as a base pedal. I think it's amazing because you can change the travel, the stiffness, the pressure, all of that is super customizable, which obviously helps me because I can calibrate it exactly the same as the car behind me. So I try to calibrate it as close as I can, and then I know some people change the profiles between the cars, but I keep the same profile for everything.
So you have your Formula E brake pedal?
As close as I can get. I keep it more or less the same, which is very stiff. I think I have it at 120 kilos.
Yep.
Very short travel, very stiff pedal.
Do you ever want to preload on that? I don't know how that works.
I try to eliminate most of the preload, but I have a tiny bit because the real car also has a little bit of free play as well. You said about other pedals. I had Fanatec V3 before this, and whilst they're not as good and as customizable as the SimuCube, I was at 10K with them pedals, and I was competitive. I felt
that's 10K I rating.
Yeah. I was at 10K I rating with those pedals. I felt comfortable enough. I think when you get used to certain equipment, it actually doesn't really matter that much. I know there's guys that are on Logitech stuff which are also at 10K, so for immersion and stuff like that, of course the SimuCube pedals are the best. If you are someone which is looking for a realistic experience with the ABS, with the TC and stuff like that on the pedals, of course SimuCube is the best. If you're looking for raw performance, anything which is allowing you to get to 70 kilo of pressure and with some accuracy is more than good enough.
And with the Fanatec V, so I actually also went for Fanatec V3 SimuCube active pedals, so not a 10K I rating. Yeah. But like, did you do anything with the elastomers to make them harder, or you just had them kind of?
As they came. So I kept it pretty easy.
Okay, that's been fascinating already on pedals. I think we might have your Formula E steering wheel
we
here.
have the steering wheel
I've got a couple of questions on steering wheel.
Of course.
Obviously, if you wanted to have a one-to-one experience of Formula E in your rig, you'd have a Formula E steering wheel.
Yeah.
I don't think these are very expensive. And they don't.
Yeah, they're very different. I'll show the camera for everyone here.
I think you might have used Asher wheels in the past, for example. Yeah. Do you have a steering wheel that if you could only have one shape,
Yeah.
GT Formula round dished D.
Formula for sure.
Over GT.
Yes. I have a GT seat because it's just the most natural position to sit, especially I'm a bit of a degenerate. I sit in my sim all the time, so it's more comfortable than sitting in
So
a
you're
Formula.
not really low down with
Yeah,
okay.
so the GT seat's a bit just more comfortable for doing long stints and stuff like that. I have a precision sim engineering wheel,
Okay.
which they've sponsored me, which is honestly the best wheel I've ever used. It's expensive, but the buttons, the dials, everything on it is
So
perfect.
is that like a, I don't know, like a 290 or 280 width or something?
I think it's bigger than that. It's
Okay.
300, 305.
Oh, okay.
It's quite big.
Okay.
It's actually in for repair at the moment,
Okay.
which I shouldn't say. But I'm using my Asher again at the moment, and
Yeah.
I can definitely tell the difference in size. I much prefer the bigger one. There's more accuracy. I
Yeah.
guess if you want to take it to an extreme, if you're going to use a bus wheel, which is really big,
Yeah.
you have more accuracy because you need to do more steering, obviously. If you've got a tiny wheel, you do a tiny input and it's very reactive. So on cars which are particularly oversteery, you have less precision. And I was doing some driving at Bathurst recently with the Asher wheel, and I found it very difficult to be precise on the downhill
Yeah.
because the wheel's so small.
I just want to dive into that 1 second because I think it's really
Yeah.
it's really interesting because it goes into what Max, I think, because people say about Max like having a really precise, like
Yeah.
Alex Albon said, like it's high sensitivity on.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've always felt with a wider wheel,
yeah.
because I make mistakes when I turn in and I
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
correct. It
Yeah.
feels a bit easier. So
Yeah.
something you'd recommend maybe for beginners then, that in terms of the size.
I would go between 280 and 300.
Okay.
That's easier.
Yeah.
260, I know the VRS wheels and the Asher wheels are about that size, and I mean, most people get along with them. I was getting on with it fine. But when I went to a bigger one, to come back was very tough. So I think it's more forgiving at a bigger size. I guess this feels quite close to the precision wheel, so I guess this is about 300 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I prefer the bigger wheels.
Okay. And this is going to be a controversial question, but we need to ask it.
Yeah.
Screens on wheels.
Yeah.
Obviously in Formula E, so important with the crypto and all this
Yes.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But for Sim, what's your view on screens and wheels? Every brand makes them with and without screens. so
Yeah,
it's like-
of course. Yeah, it's not essential, but it is better. I prefer one with the screen, especially with the LEDs, stuff like that. You have a lot more freedom to kind of do what you want, especially for endurance racing. You don't need the fuel on the screen, but if you have it, it's quicker. TC, ABS, all of this other stuff at the bottom, it's just much better than flicking through the black boxes on iRacing, for example. It's a bit better and a bit easier for me.
Do you remove anything from the HUD in game to keep it realistic, or you just have that stock?
I have it as it is, to be honest. I usually take the in-game pedal overlay and I put it on the top of the steering wheel but below the halo.
Okay.
Like kind of
Yes,
on the
yeah, yeah,
dashboard,
yeah.
just above my steering wheel. So I've got that there. I don't use it that much, to be honest, but that's just where I like it. Everything else is as it comes, really. I don't change that too much.
And DDUs as well, like extra screens, or is that a bit too much? Or
No, I don't use anything extra. So it's just the screen on the wheel and then whatever I have. I use caps as well. Caps is very useful. The same as Race Labs, the overlays in the game for standings and for relative and stuff I find that a bit more accurate than the iRacing black boxes, so I try to use that as much as
the
possible.
black box only updates every lap, doesn't it? Like on the standing.
Yeah, exactly. And then the fuel and stuff like that is a bit less precise, so I use the in-game
And are you
overlays.
someone that in a long stint you're really trying to get that fuel that you're 0.1 as
Of course. I mean, when we do stints, for example, in special events, we've got Sebring 12 coming up. We will do all the testing, we'll do all the driving with different cars, and when we've selected our car, we know that we need to do, in each stint to make it for the whole race, we need to do, let's say 29 laps. To make 29 laps, you have a target fuel, and I will set a custom target fuel on this overlay, and I will try to hit it every lap.
Okay.
For officials, I will kind of just wing it a little bit and go plus or minus a few litres, but when we're really going for it, we set custom fuel and everything else, which is optimum, of course.
So I want to ask you about torque, but just on
Yeah.
that, because in Formula E you're having to do so much management,
Yeah.
and you're obviously I think one of the fastest Formula E drivers. Do you find that actually in sim racing, thinking about all these things, kind of, is there parts of your brain that's being used to do that that's a bit similar to Formula E or not?
Yeah, of course. I mean, when I do IMSA races in officials, for example, I tend to start at the back because I have to deal with overtaking my own class. I have two higher classes or higher speed classes trying to overtake me. So there's so much to deal with. Then you've got the fuel, you've got your brake bias, you've got all this other stuff to worry about. It's still less complex than Formula E, but it's as close as I can get to practicing what I do. So I can definitely get something out of it for sure.
I think when I asked you in Brazil last year, I thought, oh, maybe you'll be doing just Formula cars because it's open cockpit. And I think you said you like doing maybe hypercars and other things.
Yeah, so now I'm doing GT3 mostly, but I'm getting into hypercar a little bit. I think.
NLS?
Not yet.
Would you be interested at some point?
Yeah, for sure. I think Nordschleife, Daytona, Le Mans, these are all bucket list tracks that, of course, I want to drive and races that I want to do. I need to get established here first, but a few years I'm interested for sure.
Okay, so I think this is the big question. We so generous with time.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to ask a lot of drivers about this. Torque.
Yeah.
We see wheelbases come out 25, 39 Newton meters.
Yeah.
You can crank it up if you want.
Yeah.
You run a Formula E car. I think you told me last year in London.
Yeah.
There was you were involved in the incident. And I said, oh, maybe there's not space to edge out. He said, I couldn't edge out because if someone hits me, I'm going to break my wrist.
Yes.
So you know all about torque.
Yeah.
What do you run your wheelbase torque at, and what do you recommend?
So I have SimiCube 2 Pro, and I run it max.
25?
I run it,
25?
I run it flat out. Obviously, in-game, you can adjust plus or minus. You need to be careful not to clip the wheelbase because there's obviously certain settings that can make your wheelbase run out, and then it's called clipping, but I don't really know how to explain it.
Basically, you saturate it. So
saturating is the right word. So you don't want to saturate your wheelbase and then lose feeling.
So you run 25 in SimQ software.
Yeah, and then I adjust to get as much force without saturating the wheelbase, basically.
Okay, so your limit is not your body in a way. It's the
saturating
wheelbase.
the wheelbase.
It's the wheelbase.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's quite high because there has been a trend of people saying, oh, maybe it's more realistic, for example, in GT3 to run less. And I've been going to tracks and driving cars and trying to work it out, and I've been thinking, but I think IndyCar drivers. And,
they're two series like IndyCar and Formula E. We don't have power steering. The steering wheel is extremely heavy, especially when we go to bumpy circuits. For us, it's more realistic to have higher force feedback and feel the bumps a bit more in the simulator. So, I tend to run stuff quite high with little damping as well, because of course we have no damping here. So.
Does that mean you get a lot of...
Yeah, lots of shaking, vibration, stuff like that, so I can feel everything which is happening with the car. I would suggest to most people to run higher force feedback if you can handle it and you feel okay with it. I suggest higher. You can feel the car more, especially when you're trying to run a GT car, for example, at the limit, when it's more oversteery, you feel a bit quicker and a bit better what's happening with the car.
You mean like almost a drop-off in torque?
Yeah, so let's say you start to understeer, you feel the torque drop away, so then you know the car is understeering. If you feel the torque become really heavy, you know the car is about to oversteer. So if you're really running it at the limit and a bit higher force, you feel it a bit better.
Almost feels a little bit similar to what you're saying about the wheel in terms of like how you sense things.
Yeah, of course. So I run a bigger wheel, higher force feedback, and it gives me the best precision and feeling for what I need.
Okay, well, this has been fascinating. I don't know if you have any final tip, any one tip you give any
One tip, practice is perfect. That's literally it. I mean, when I started, I was also really quite bad. It was in COVID, I was doing the F3 championship with Enzo Mucci. He set that up. I was terrible.
This is after you're doing your top level karting.
Yeah, this was after. I was really bad on the sim, but of course I was angry that I wasn't very good, and then do laps, and now of course I've been driving on the sim for I guess 5 years now, and of course I'm competing at the top, but it's not without practice, so practice makes perfect for sure.
Well, we know there's a very famous Formula 1 driver doing a lot of sim, and there's a famous Formula E driver doing a lot of sim as well, so maybe there's something in the sim waters.
Maybe.
Any questions you got, put them in the comments, we'll try and get them across to Taylor, because it's great to have you, I think, as an ambassador of sim racing in Formula E, and I think it's very inspirational for a lot of people watching.